The top stories tonight in Wine News. The Senate and the House of Representatives is set to pass COVID-19 urgent measures on Monday.
The Department of Health confirms detection of severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 or SARS-CoV-2 mutation in Central Visayas.
President Rodrigo Duterte might place the entire country under modified general community quarantine by next month. High-profile inmate Raymond Dominguez, known as the leader of a notorious carjack ring, was found dead in his cell at the New Bilibid prison.
Former Senator Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. could still appeal the Presidential Electoral Tribunal decisions to dismiss his election protest against Vice President Leni Robredo, according to Supreme Court Chief Justice Diosdado Peralta.
And NASA's Perseverance rover has safely landed on the red planet. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Friday, February 19, 2021. I am Herlene Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news. President Rodrigo Duterte could no longer wait as the arrival date of COVID-19 vaccines keep getting pushed back. Meanwhile, Malacanang urges the public to trust experts on the safety of the vaccines. Rosa Licos explains why.
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque revealed that President Rodrigo Duterte himself is already growing impatient due to the reported delay in the arrival of COVID-19 vaccines to the country. The president has certified as urgent the measures to expedite the vaccine procurement, hoping the process will move faster.
Pero tatapatin ko na po kayo, si Presidente ang nagsalita na, siya mismo na iinip na, kinakailangan dumating na ang mga bakuna. Kaya naman siguro dahil nagsalita na ng ganyan ng Presidente, gagalaw na ng mas mabilis ang lahat.
The palace official divulged the supposed delivery on February 23rd of the 600,000 doses of donated Sinovac vaccines by China might be delayed if the Food and Drug Administration would not issue an emergency use authorization anytime soon. The supply of Pfizer and AstraZeneca vaccines through the COVAX facility was also expected to be delivered in mid-February but was disrupted due to the absence of the indemnification fund then, as well as supply and logistical challenges. Meanwhile, Malacanang appealed again to the public to trust the experts on the safety of COVID-19 vaccines. This as more residents are still hesitant to receive the COVID-19 vaccine jabs. Vaccine confidence in the country plummeted due to the Dengvaxia controversy.
Kailangan po pakinggan natin ang mga epidemiologists, pakinggan natin yung mga specialista, mga vaccinologists, no? At lahat naman po sila nagsasabi na bagamat emergency use authorization, mas marami yung benepisyong makukuha natin sa mga bakuna ng COVID-19, laban sa COVID-19, kesa dun sa kanilang posibleng mga side effects.
Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Leaders from the Senate and the House of Representatives have made their commitments to pass their own versions of COVID-19 vaccination bills on Monday. On Wednesday, Senate Majority Leader Miguel Zubiri was hoping for the president to certify the Senate version of the bill as urgent on the same day so that they could convene the bicameral conference committee over the weekend. However, the certification was issued on Thursday, which is a no-session day, pushing their timetable for the approval on Monday. In its plenary debate on Wednesday, some senators asked why is it only now that the need for an indemnification law was highlighted. Senate Finance Committee Chairperson Sonny Angara, who sponsored the bill, said that according to Vaccines Czar Carlito Galvez Jr., it was not put forth to them as a requirement in the early stages of the negotiation with some vaccine manufacturers.
Secretary Duque is mentioning that they mentioned it during the committee of the whole hearing.
It was mentioned, it was suggested that perhaps there should be some sort of indemnification for possible adverse reactions, but it was not at all mentioned that this is necessary before any supply agreement was to be entered into. In fact, they were saying that we will have the indicative deadline of signing and the delivery and the vaccination will be Feb 20.
Because of the impression that might be created, and I underscore the word might, na hindi po dumadating ang bakuna sa atin dahilan po walang ganitong batas. Hindi po totoo yun.
Under the Senate Bill 2057, a COVID-19 National Vaccine Indemnity Fund will be created to be administered by the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, or PhilHealth. An additional 500 million pesos will be placed for the fund to be sourced from the contingent fund under the national budget. According to Angara, the PhilHealth will also compensate the vaccinee in case of death or permanent disability. However, Senate President Pro Tempore Ralph Recto believes there is no need to augment PhilHealth's fund for the program. Citing a copy of PhilHealth's September 2020 financial statement, the senator claimed that the agency has 116 billion peso reserve fund.
Well, I don't know if that is wise use of resources, but we're just in effect giving PhilHealth an additional 500 million.
Yes, subject to contingency, Your Honor, because if no one gets sick, then that 500 million will not be given, Your Honor.
In a statement given to UNTV News, PhilHealth spokesperson Ray Balenya said they have studied the benefit packages and are now up for approval of the PhilHealth board. He also assured the public that PhilHealth will provide the appropriate benefit coverage for the hospitalization of vaccinees who will experience adverse side effects. Vaccines Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. called on the public to be more patient amid some delays in the vaccine arrival in the Philippines due to limited global supply and other variables. Asher Cadapan Jr. will tell us why live. Yes, Asher?
Vaccines Czar National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. explains that there is a serious challenge in the supply and demand for COVID-19 vaccines, not only for the Philippines, but for most countries as well. According to Secretary Galvez, 130 out of about 280 countries still have not received their supply of vaccines against COVID-19. Here is Secretary Galvez.
Napakahirap ng sitwasyon in terms of yung tinatawag nating yung global supply and demand. Nakita natin na hindi lang tayo ang nahihirapan, kundi yung mga ibang mamamayan at ibang mga bansa.
Galvez further explains that even big countries like Canada was able to get their supply from India despite several attempts to order from its neighboring country, the United States. With this, the NTF also plans to go to India in the coming days for the vaccine procurement.
We are trying our best. Maybe one of these days baka pupunta kami ng India dahil kasi nakita namin na more or less 2 to 3 billion doses will be produced by Serum Institute of India.
Despite uncertainties of when to receive the vaccines from the three suppliers who were granted emergency use authority by the Food and Drug Administration, the Vaccine Czar have high hopes that the COVID-19 vaccines will finally be delivered in the country within the current month. In the meantime, Secretary Galvez appeals to Metro Manila mayors for patience from the delays in the availability of the vaccines.
Kami po ay nagsusumamo kay Sir Benhur at sa ating mga mayor na konting pasensya na po talaga na talagang hindi po natin kasi hawak yung ating supply chain sa tinatawag nating supply chain dun sa ating mga vaccine.
Aline, the NTF assures the public that the government is doing its best to provide the needed vaccine while ensuring its safety and its efficacy to Filipinos. Arlene?
Thank you, Asher Kadapan Jr. reporting live.
Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte might impose the most relaxed community quarantine status in the country next month. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
The Metro Manila mayors and the Interagency Task Force have already agreed to place Metro Manila under modified general community quarantine. The National Capital Region is the ground zero of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country. Because of this, President Duterte may approve the recommendation in March.
So inaasahan naman natin dahil meron ng ganitong kasunduan sa panig ng IATF at ng mga Metro Manila mayors, baka naman po sumang-ayon ng ating presidente. Magkakaroon po ang desisyon ng ating presidente itong Lunes, 22, bagamat baka ito po i-anunsyo ko bago po matapos ang buwan ng Pebrero.
What do residents expect under Modified General Community Quarantine or MGCQ, including those in Metro Manila? Based on the updated omnibus guidelines published in the Gazette, MGCQ refers to the transition phase between the general community quarantine and the new normal, when temporary measures are relaxed and become less necessary. Though quarantine restrictions will be eased, minimum public health standards against COVID-19 shall be complied with, such as wearing a face mask, washing of hands, and social distancing. Indoor and outdoor non-contact sports and other forms of exercise are allowed under MGCQ. 50% seating or venue capacity is allowed for mass gatherings such as movie screenings, concerts, sporting events, other entertainment activities, religious services, and work conferences. Higher education institutions may conduct limited face-to-face classes in consultation with local government units and compliance with the guidelines of the Commission on Higher Education. Face-to-face technical vocational education and training and competency assessment may be conducted at up to 50% training site capacity with consultation with LGUs. All public and private offices may be allowed to resume physical reporting to work at full operating capacity with alternative work arrangements for persons who are 60 years old and above, those with immunodeficiency, comorbidity, or other health risk, and pregnant women. The road, rail, maritime, and aviation sectors of public transportation shall be allowed to operate at such capacity following the protocols provided for by the Department of Transportation. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
A further delay in the shift to modified general community quarantine or MGCQ may worsen hunger in the country amid the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Joanne Nano tells us why.
The Department of Trade and Industry reported that there are still 1.6 million employees have not returned to their work, as several businesses are still not allowed to operate in general community quarantine areas. This is the reason why the DTI is pushing for the shift to modified GCQ. Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez explains that we can no longer wait for the COVID-19 vaccination program to kick off before we could able to downgrade the country's quarantine status to MGCQ. Secretary Lopez argues that this will only worsen the country's problem in hunger amid the pandemic, as people were not able to earn for their income. Lopez adds that hunger may result to bigger problems in health and education, among others.
Again, we can imagine each day po na walang pagkain yung ibang kababayan natin, each day na nagugutom, na malnourished po sila, ano ho kaya ang gagawin natin sa kanila? So yun ho ang big question. Sasabihin ho nila sa atin, sigurado hindi namin maantay kahit isang linggo, isang buwan, tatlong buwan. What if hindi pa ho kaagad ma-implement? Kahit may dumating ngayong February, hindi ho naman makakasakit itong gagawin natin. Again, nakita natin yung mga nagluwag tayo ng dahan-dahan, hindi naman ho sumipa yung cases. So, again, may basihan naman po tayo.
Meanwhile, despite rejections and opposition of some local chief executives, the DTI is still pushing for the proposed reopening of cinemas and arcades. Secretary Lopez cited that upon the recommendation of some experts, they are suggesting to allow 20% capacity in cinemas once it will be allowed to resume their operations. The official reiterates that shifting to MGCQ doesn't mean that people will no longer be careful and health and safety protocols will be taken for granted. Instead, it will just open other sectors and businesses gradually.
When we are looking into arcades sa cinema, hindi naman po ito bigla-biglaan. Remember po na MGCQ na sa karamihang lugar sa sa buong Pilipinas. In the MGCQ outside Metro Manila, bukas po yung sinihan. And then, pina-observe po natin, wala rin naman hong naging spike. Sa pag-reopen ho nito, hindi ibig sabihin hindi tayo mag-iingat. Nag-iingat nga po, kaya nga even in MGCQ areas, tinutuloy lang ho natin itong gradual reopening.
The DTI assures that the national government is in close coordination and recognizes the recommendations of the local governments in coming up with decisions and policies to be implemented to balance the health and economy amid the pandemic. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Agriculture is planning to expand the price ceiling implementation in the entire Luzon. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
The Department of Agriculture is investigating reports of traders diverting some pork meat from Mindanao to provinces outside the National Capital Region. Agriculture Undersecretary Ernesto Gonzalez said their teams will monitor the delivery of meats to make sure it will reach Metro Manila markets.
Susundan natin yung pagdating mismo ng shipment, pupunta na yan ng ating enforcement, susundan yan hanggang sa slaughterhouse. Kung ilalabas yan, hindi nila matatanggap yung subsidy.
Still reeling the effects of the price cap, vendors and dealers in Commonwealth Market in Quezon City are planning to stop selling starting Monday. They complained big losses and that they have not received hog supplies facilitated by the DA.
Lahat tayo, meron tayo sa tayo kumuha ng baboy na yun. Meron man sobrang taas. Lalo hindi natin masusunod yung 270 na yan. Ang mag-iisolusyon natin, papaalam tayo sa ating administrator natin ay hindi na tayo nakikita.
Paano naman kami? Ubus na ang puhunan namin at wala na kami ipapaubos kasi ubus na. Yun ang totoo. Magpakatotoo tayo. Nagbibigay tayo ng 270 pero negatibo.
The vendors and dealers clarified they are not protesting against the government with their actions. The reasons is that they cannot sustain the business financially. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Farmers from New Greenland, Quezon City benefit from urban farming, which was first initiated by Bread Society International and Members Church of God International. They were able to sell around 700 kilograms of vegetables in the Harvest Festival. JP Nunez reports.
The Harvest Festival, which was presided by the Department of Agrarian Reform and Quezon City Government, were able to help farmers of New Greenland in Barangay Silangan to sell their vegetables. This urban farming initiative in the area was primarily executed by the Bible Reader Society International and Members Church of God International in accordance to their advocacy to help others through this vegetation.
Opo, bali sa awa tulong po ng Diyos, ang Bread Society po, isa sa mga non-sectarian group na sumuporta doon sa panawagan ng local government.
According to a farmer, initiative helps their neighborhood to easily sell their crops.
Iba kasi yung tanim namin, mga talbos, ilako po namin. Ngayon, hindi na kasi meron na nag-harvest. Meron nang pupunta dito na bibili. Di kagaya dati, ilalako pa namin kung saan-saang lugar. Malaki pong tulong sa amin mga pamilya pag na-harvest na po ito. Yung pambayad namin sa kuryente, tubig, malaking bagay po ito sa aming mga manananim.
Meanwhile, Department of Agrarian Reform and Quezon City Government has extended the farming land from 4 to 10 hectares.
Atin pong pinili ang Bagong Silangan sapagkat napakalaki naman. Nakita naman po ninyo kung gaano kalaki ang bakanting lupa dito, 10 hektarya.
Aside from the benefits to help farmers, this will also help sustain the food security in the city as it would supply about 2 communities. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. The Department of Health, along with the Philippine Genome Center, confirmed the recent detection of severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 or SARS-CoV-2 mutation in samples from Central Visayas. According to experts, the same mutation were also discovered in South Africa and the United Kingdom. Meanwhile, experts believe that a person could still be infected with COVID-19 even after getting vaccinated. Aiko Miguel explains why.
Mutations in virus are normal due to the surge of COVID-19 cases, according to health experts. This is why they are also strictly monitoring prominent increase of cases to prevent mutations that may also lead to having new variants.
For them to survive, they mutate. And the more cases we have, then the more opportunities to mutate. When the virus enters the cell, pag na-infect tayo, pumasok sa katawan, for that virus to survive and cause infection, nagmumultiply siya.
The E484K mutation discovered in the sample in Central Visayas was also seen in the SARS-CoV-2 that was first discovered in South Africa. The N5011 mutation was also discovered in United Kingdom. According to Dr. Cynthia Saloma of Philippine Genome Center, the public should also understand that this does not mean there's a variant that has originated in the Philippines. Experts are still investigating the possibility of having a homegrown variant in the country.
Na-associate nga nila yung may mga cases sa UK na talagang tumaas. And then when they look back at their samples, nakita nila as early as September 20 na mayroon palang ganitong klaseng sequence. At sa kanyang hallmark mutation is ito nga yung 501Y. Tapos lumabas din po yung researchers sa South Africa na mayroon po silang variant doon, which we now have this lineage assignment called B.1.351, na not only does it have the 501Y that was first reported by the UK researchers, meron din po siyang 484K.
All the cases in Central Visayas with the SARS-CoV-2 mutations have already recovered. According to Health Secretary Francisco Duque III, they still have to investigate whether these mutations will affect the country's pandemic response. According to the health chief, the surge of COVID-19 cases in Central Visayas cannot be directly linked to the more transmissible COVID-19 variant.
Kasi marami rin tayong ibang factors na dapat alamin o na obserbahan na nag-MGCQ ang Region 7. So tumaas ang mobility ng mga tao. So kung tumaas ang mobility, syempre yung contact rate tumaas din. So yung transmission rate ay tumaas din, etc. So yan tingin ko ang posibleng dahilan, pero pwedeng hindi lang siya ang dahilan. Pwedeng maraming dahilan, no? Kaya nga kinakailangan mas malaliman pag-aaral o pagsusuri para malaman natin.
Experts are also aware of the case of 2 overseas Filipino workers who tested positive of COVID-19 in the country, even after receiving COVID-19 jabs in Canada and UAE. Dr. Edsel Salvana explains it is still possible for a vaccinee to be infected with COVID-19 if minimum public health standards is not observed.
Wala pa po tayong vaccine that can 100% prevent infection and transmission. These can be affected by a lot of factors, kung kakabakuna lang, kung wala pa yung second dose. Actually, even over time, di ba, hindi pa natin alam kung kakailanganin ng booster after 1 year. Baka bumaba na yung efficacy at that point, hindi pa po natin alam ito. But we know that it protects against severe disease.
The public is advised to not panic when reports of mutations are released. Health protocols should still be observed to avoid getting infected with any COVID-19 variant. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The country's coronavirus disease 2019 case tally increased to 557,058 today after 1,901 more people tested positive for the viral illness. In its latest case bulletin, the Department of Health said that active cases currently stands at 32,440 or 5.8% of the total number of cases. While of the total active cases, 86% are in mild condition, 8.5% do not have symptoms, 2.4% are in critical condition, and 2.4% are severe, and 0.72% are in moderate condition. The death count was pushed to 11,829,000 after 157 more COVID-19 patients died. The DOH noted that 120 cases previously tagged as recoveries were reclassified as deaths after final validation. Meanwhile, 537 more patients got well, which brought the total number of recoveries to 512,789.
Pateros Mayor Miguel Ponce wants to be vaccinated ahead of all residents in the municipality. The local chief executive also said that the local government unit is ready in case the country is placed under modified general community quarantine next month. Asher Cadapan Jr. explains why.
A survey conducted by the Pateros government shows 79% of their residents are willing to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Out of about 75,000 population of Pateros, about 6,000 residents have already pre-registered for the local government unit's vaccination program. 41,000 Pateros residents will be prioritized, which include local health workers, senior citizens, indigent population, and uniformed personnel. But once the vaccines against COVID-19 finally becomes available in the country, Mayor Miguel Ponce said he is volunteering to be vaccinated first in the municipality. This, he explains, will bolster confidence of his constituents to participate in the program.
I believe that they have faith and trust sa kanilang government. At pag sinabi namin sa kanilang ligtas, at sabi ko nga, ako uuna rito no, once dumating ang vaccine. Kaya ang tingin ko ay ganun kataas din ang confidence nila sa bakuna natin. No?
As the Coordinated Operations to Defeat Epidemic or CODE team convenes with the local government officials of Pateros today, National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer and Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. confirms that the LGU is ready for its vaccination program. It is just finally waiting for the vaccines against COVID-19, where Pateros LGU is buying 20,000 doses for 10,000 individuals. Mayor Ponce said the rest of the vaccine supplies will be provided by the national government. It targets to vaccinate 1,000 individuals per day or 5,000 individuals per week and expects to vaccinate all its residents within 5 to 6 months. But while waiting for the availability of the vaccines in the country, the local chief executive of Pateros is also prepared in shifting to modified general community quarantine. Mayor Ponce said they will adhere to the decision of the Metro Manila Council to ease the quarantine status in the metropolis.
Nasa GCQ man tayo ay marami ng modifications from the original IATF guidelines. So ako personally, ang tingin ko, with the strict implementation of the health protocols, kaya naman.
Asher Cadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Former Senator Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. can still appeal the Presidential Electoral Tribunal decisions to dismiss his election protest against Vice President Leni Robredo. Dante Amento tells us why.
The Supreme Court, sitting as the Presidential Electoral Tribunal, has yet to release the decision on the unanimous dismissal of former Senator Ferdinand Marcos' election protest against Vice President Leni Robredo. Chief Justice Diosdado Peralta said they are still waiting for other magistrates to explain their votes as part of the rule, particularly those who concurred the result.
We are waiting for the others who might explain their votes, because if it is in the result, the effect is that those who voted in the result should explain their votes. That's the rules.
Peralta also refused to disclose the main reason why all justices voted to dismiss the case, but he assured there was a deliberation and even debates before he called for a vote.
That I cannot divulge. The deliberation is confidential. What I can only say is that, as usual, there was deliberation, there were debates, there were several opinions raised, but eventually, as what the Chief Justice usually does, is to call for a vote, and that's what happened.
Thus, the camp of Bongbong Marcos can still appeal the higher court's decision as one of his remedies. But when asked what will be the effect on the case if Marcos will run for national position in 2022 elections, Chief Justice Peralta responded,
"Oh, that's another question. That's not tackled in our deliberation. That is his choice. No, if he wants to run, then that is his choice. But as to whether or not that will abandon his protest, that's another thing."
Meanwhile, the Tarlac State University has conferred the Chief Justice the honorary degree as Doctor of Laws for his contributions and accomplishments in the judiciary branch of government. C.J. Peralta was appointed by President Rodrigo Duterte as the 26th Supreme Court Chief Justice last October 23, 2019. However, he was applied to retire from the service by March 2021 on his 69th birthday. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Philippine National Police is seeking probable liabilities of the University of San Carlos in Cebu, where 19 Lumad children were rescued after being reported missing for more than 2 years. Leia Ilagan will tell us why.
The Philippine National Police will launch a separate investigation and possibly filing a case against the University of San Carlos in Cebu, where at least 19 Lumad children were rescued from the university's campus. PNP Chief Police General de Bolsina said the rescued children were reported missing by their parents since 2018.
Actually, we are conducting a separate investigations for I have already tasked the Regional Director to coordinate and to coordinate with the vehicle if something is amiss.
Sinas adds they will also ask the help of the Department of Education or Commission on Higher Education in conducting an investigation.
We will be finalizing, I have already advised the Regional Director to finalize the investigation report nila and to communicate and write a letter to the DepEd or anumang DepEd ba o check ba ang jurisdiction sa kanila para po mabigyan din ng kaukulang ipag-imbestiga ito.
The PNP had already filed a criminal case of kidnapping against the arrested 7 individuals. The suspects are now detained at the Police Regional Office 7 headquarters in Cebu. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
A formal investigation has yet to be launched in the death of convicted carjacker Raymond Dominguez, who was found lifeless inside his cell at the New Bilibid prison. The Bureau of Corrections have observed that there has been no sign of foul play on the inmate's death. Nina Armillo explains why.
The body of notorious carjacker Raymond Dominguez was found unresponsive and lifeless by his jailmate in their cell at around 6 this morning at the maximum security compound of the New Bilibid prison. According to Bureau of Corrections spokesperson Gabriel Chaclag, Dominguez was asked to wake up so he could be accounted for, but he wouldn't answer. Bucor is waiting for the medical legal report to determine the cause of Dominguez's demise. The Bucor official emphasized that no sign of foul play was found. Contrary to the information, the commando group is behind the high-profile inmate's death.
Natagpuan siyang patay sa kanyang bed, so it appears dead. Pero pinapaimbestigahan pa natin Wala namang foul play.
The Bucor spokesperson added that Dominguez had diabetes, hypertension, and asthma. Dominguez was detained in April 2012 over 25 cases, including carnapping with murder and homicide. One of Dominguez's victims was Vincent Evangelista, son of Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption or VACC President Arsenio Boy Evangelista. In an interview, Evangelista described Dominguez's cause of death as sketchy. Dominguez had been previously reported as one of the death cases due to COVID-19 along with other high-profile inmates last year, but Chaclag stressed the cause of death is still undetermined.
Siguro cardiac arrest or bangungot kasi undetermined pa unless nasabihin ng doktor.
Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara has asked Bucor to submit a report on the inmate's death. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Our ring has weakened into a tropical storm as of 2 p.m. today. State Weather Bureau Pagasa says as of 4 p.m. the center of Auring was located at 405 kilometers east-southeast of Hinatuan, Surigao del Sur. It has maximum winds of 85 kilometers per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 105 kilometers per hour, moving westward at 15 kilometers per hour. According to Pag-asa, it is forecast to make landfall over the eastern coast of Caraga region on Sunday morning. Our ring is likely to re-intensify into a severe tropical storm prior to landfall. Tropical cyclone wind signal number 1 has been placed over southern Leyte and the southeastern portion of eastern Samar. Also included are Dinagat Island, Surigao del Norte, Surigao del Sur, Agusan del Norte, Agusan del Sur, Davao Oriental, Davao de Oro, Davao del Norte, Davao City, Camiguin, the eastern portion of Misamis Oriental, and the eastern portion of Bukidnon. Pag-asa said more areas in Visayas and Mindanao may be placed under signal number 1, while signal number 2 is possible to be raised in Surigao del Sur and Davao Oriental in the next weather bulletin to be issued at 11 p.m. today.
Tech giant Facebook is facing mounting criticism over its decision to block news contents in Australia. Early Beyonce will give us the details live. Early, who have reacted in this issue so far?
Good evening, Marielle. Politicians, publishers, and rights groups in several countries have accused Facebook of bullying and raised concerns over its access on millions of informations. Under Facebook's new rules, Australian users are blocked from viewing and sharing local and international news, while local publishers are restricted from sharing or posting any links on their pages. Prime Minister Scott Morrison is among one of many who criticized Facebook, stating that Facebook has unfriended Australia, and big tech companies are not an exemption to the rules and laws in which the government enforces. They do not run the world. Western Australian Premier Mark McGowan also names Facebook for acting like a dictator, where their actions have been irresponsible with a potential of damaging consequences. In the United Kingdom, the government said that it was vital that the public be able to access accurate news and information, particularly during a global pandemic. Global publishers also reacted, with the company behind the Guardian newspaper saying it was deeply concerned. The head of German BDZB News Publishers Association said it was high time that government all over the world limit the market powers of the gatekeepers' platforms. Marielle?
All right, Early, thank you for that live report. The Australian government will soon roll out the COVID-19 vaccination plan in the country, but authorities are now warning that some of its supplies will go to waste. Ia De Vera will tell us why.
Australia is one of the countries that is now affected by the global syringe shortage. Because of this, up to 1/6 of the country's COVID-19 vaccines could not be used for the vaccination plan. More than 142,000 doses of Pfizer vaccine arrived in Sydney, Australia on Monday, and the said vaccine will be available to receive by the Australians on February 22. However, the special syringes needed to extract the 6 doses of Pfizer vaccine stored in each vial will not be available when the vaccination plan rolls out on Monday next week. It means that for the first few days or weeks, health workers who will administer the jab need to use the standard syringes, which can only withdraw 5 doses from the vial, and the last dose needs to be thrown out. Professor Mike Toole, an epidemiologist from Victoria, said low dead space syringes are needed to minimize waste in the injection process. However, Toole added that standard syringes are absolutely fine, and many providers in the world are getting 6 doses most of the time. The government will release 80,000 doses of the vaccine. 50,000 will be administered to the frontline quarantine and health workers, while 30,000 doses will be used by aged care and disability care residents and workers. Ia De Vera, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Life expectancy in the United States fell as COVID-19 swept through the country, a decline not seen since World War II. Details in this report.
As the COVID-19 pandemic took hold, life expectancy in the United States dropped 1 full year during the first half of 2020, according to a new Centers of Disease Control and Prevention report, with even greater declines seen among Black and Hispanic people. Life expectancy is defined as how long a baby born today can expect to live on average. Americans overall declined from 78.8 in 2019 to 77.8. For males, it was 75.1 years, and for females, it was 80.5 years. Life expectancy decreased 2.7 years for Black people to 72. It dropped 1.9 years for Hispanics to 79.9 and 0.8 years for white people to 78. The preliminary report did not analyze trends for Asian or Native Americans. 2020 was the deadliest year in U.S. history, with deaths topping 3 million for the first time. Most were due to COVID-19, which has claimed the lives of more than 490,000 Americans since the start of the pandemic, the highest death toll in the world. Health experts say the data show the impacts of the coronavirus, but also more broadly deaths from heart disease, cancer, and other severe health conditions. Maria Latoza, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, power plants in Texas, USA has been restored after the winter storm that hit the state. Lena Ramos reports.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced on Twitter that power plants in the state have been restored, but hundreds of thousands of people still remain without energy. According to the governor, this may be due to the down power lines or the need for the power company to manually reconnect. Officials say that some 325,000 households still remain without power, while more than 13 million Texans are seeing interruptions in their water services. Meanwhile, energy operators and state leaders faced criticism for how they handled the snow and the prolonged outages. Texas Senator Ted Cruz also faced widespread criticism after photos on Twitter emerged of him taking a tropical vacation with his family in Mexico, while his home state is hit by the winter storm. Governor Abbott says that he has talked with state legislators to push through laws that mandates all energy plants in the state to winterize their facility so Texas can be ready if future winter storm happens again. Lena Ramos, UNTV News and Rescue, USA. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
NASA's 5th Mars rover named Perseverance makes a historic landing after a hazardous descent. Marvy Delfin will give us the details live. Yes, Marvy.
Marielle, NASA's newest science rover named Perseverance passed through the Martian atmosphere on Thursday and landed at 4:55 a.m. Philippine time safely on the floor of the vast Jezero crater, which scientists believe to have once contained a lake about 3.9 billion years ago. The spacecraft's self-guided descent and landing during a complex series of maneuvers that NASA dubbed the 7 Minutes of Terror stands as the most elaborate and challenging feat for robotic spaceflight. Seconds after landing was confirmed, it sent back its first image from the surface and was posted on Twitter, which went viral. Perseverance, the car-sized plutonium-powered rover, is the most advanced and sophisticated astrobiology laboratory ever sent to another planet. It is also the first rover to capture the sights and sounds of a landing on Mars, as it is equipped with several cameras and microphones, so we are expecting to see high-resolution clips and panorama shots early next week. After establishing communication with Earth, Perseverance's task is to gather data and search for traces of an ancient microbial life on the red planet. The landing of the six-wheeled space vehicle marks the third visit to Mars in just over a week. Along with 2 spacecraft from the United Arab Emirates and China, the mission lifted off in July last year to take advantage of the launch window where Earth and Mars are closely aligned, traveling some 482 million kilometers in nearly 7 months. The landing represented the riskiest part of a 2-year endeavor worth $2.7 billion in a quest that is very different to any mission that has come before it. Scientists hope to find biosignatures embedded in samples of ancient sediments that Perseverance is designed to extract from Martian rock for future analysis back on Earth. If successful, this will be the first such specimens ever collected by humans from another planet. Marielle?
All right, Marvi, thank you for that live report. And those are the reasons behind the news here in Australia and in other parts of the globe. For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
Hog raising may be a big challenge today to some livestock farmers due to the presence of African swine fever or ASF in the country. But this does not stop some farmers to think for an alternative way of living to help their families. JP Nunez has this report.
60 hog raisers who were severely affected by the African swine fever in Barangay Bagong Silangan and Barangay Payatas is set to receive an alternative livelihood from Quezon City local government and Department of Agriculture. These hog raisers converted their pig pens into fish tanks suitable for urban aquaculture. They will be given a total of 19,000 fingerlings of catfish and tilapia to raise for about 5 to 6 months before harvest.
Kung magiging productive nga ito dahil sa tulong ng Bureau of Fisheries na mapaunlad namin ito, maalagaan talaga ito within 3 months to 4 months haros ang 3 piraso ay magiging 1 kilo. Nakikita ko na mayroon din doon source of income.
The hog raisers were also given filtration tanks to maintain good oxygen, which is essential for the growth of the fish. The local government will also support the feeds for the fish. 600 hog raisers were affected by the African swine fever in the area, but only 60 were chosen to avail the livelihood assistance as they lost their source of income when their hogs were culled.
Kasi hindi naman lahat ng 600 ay umaasa lang sa baboy para sa kanilang pangkabuhayan. Marami doon sa mga naapektuhan ng ASF, actually sideline lang nila yung magkaroon ng baboy. So hindi sila priority kasi marami pa silang negosyo. Yung priority natin, yung talagang yan lang talaga ang inaasahan nilang pangkabuhayan.
Parang dito kasi nag-start lang kami ng 60 muna kasi yun talagang may interest because we have to look also on the level of commitment and preparedness of the stakeholders.
According to the Department of Agriculture, this urban aquaculture is expected to produce 1.58 metric tons of catfish and 1.29 metric tons of tilapia. JP Nunez, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news, February 19, 2021. I am Hardin Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.